Hello, dear audience. Hello and warm welcome to New Generation Women. And I'm Jeanine from Seenus. I had my last interview partner, which was Kisser Paludan from Denmark. And she's a spiritual psychologist. She's also a student and a teacher of A Course in Miracles. And I think she's an amazing, amazing psychologist. She's so confident, so wise. She has started her journey when she was 15. And you can feel that. You can really feel the depth and the richness of her experiences that makes her, to me, a very wise, a very knowledgeable, and a no bullshit woman. She just doesn't talk any kind of bullshit. Sorry, sometimes I have to say it that way. And I really love her for that. She has prepared two exercises on self-love. And I have also talked about self-love as one of the most beautiful but the most necessary anchors that we women have when we want to go out, when we want to take this chance to go out later. We are ready. Those of us who have been conscious and trained conscious, who have been on a journey for quite some time, we are ready to go out in our vocation, our area, wherever we feel to go, and step up and be the leaders we came to be. We were just training for that. So taking these tools and practices and what Kiss is going to also share with you as a reminder of what you already know, but as a wonderful reminder to practice it during the last stage of lockdown. That is something that I do for myself and that I'm happy to share with you. On this positive note, wherever you are, I wish you a soulful, insightful time and hang in there. We are all hanging in there. Now it becomes long, I know. Stay safe, stay healthy, and until soon. Bye-bye.
Hi everyone. So I'm going to share with you a self-love exercise that I have in my book. It's called Mod til at være dig. In English, it's Courage to be you. And it breaks down different areas of life so that you may have a look at different areas of your life and see how you might be able to live a life that's a reflection of love for yourself. How is it possible for you to infuse your life in different areas with self-love, really? And so there are 9 different, it looks like this, there are 9 different areas of life. You can put in more if you find more that make meaning for you. And so I'll just go through them and yeah. So the first one is your relationship to yourself. And so the exercise is that you may, if you feel like it, rate yourself. So 0 is it's really bad, and 10 it's absolutely perfect. And in the relationship to yourself, the question is, how loving is your relationship to yourself? So how present are you? How connected are you to yourself? What are your thoughts about yourself like? Are you a good friend to yourself? So many different areas. How loving is your relationship to yourself? How compassionate are you with yourself when something's difficult for you, for example? How authentic are you? How much do you trust yourself? Yeah, whatever you can think of under relationship to yourself. And so I just want to say before we get into this exercise that it's so important to do this exercise with a lot of compassion and yeah, a lot of self-love and compassion towards the difficulty involved in being a human being with an ego that will think that there is something I need to do or be in order to deserve love. And when we sometimes see that the rate is really low, it takes a lot of compassion to not feel guilty or shameful that we haven't succeeded living a more self-loving life. So a lot of compassion is needed. And I also really love this exercise because it helps us to get clear and truthful. What is it really like in different areas of life? And also there may be areas in your life where self-love seems to flow pretty easy and areas where self-love seems to be pretty blocked. So number one was your relationship to yourself. How loving is it? The next one is your relationships, the relationships that you have in your life. And you may write down all the important relationships and rate them. How self-loving are they? So how am I able to be self-loving in my relationships? Am I myself? Am I authentic? Do I speak my truth? Can I trust myself in my relationships? Do they seem balanced? Do they support me? Are they loving? Do they see the light in me? Do I see the light in others? Is love flowing freely? Whatever you can think of in your relationships. And in my experience, we will have probably relationships that seem very self-loving, and where self-love is easy, and relationships where it seems to be difficult. So in relationships and in the relationship to yourself, there is also the aspect of listening to yourself, of listening to your needs and your emotions, and to what degree are you able to express this in relationships with others. That's also part of being self-loving. And to see relationships in our lives as a reflection of the love that we have for ourselves, or the relationship that we have with ourselves. So when I was younger, I would tend to attract friendships with people who needed someone to lean on. And I would so long for having someone I could lean on. I would attract people who would need me to be the strong one. And I quickly started to realize that it didn't have anything to do with the people, really, the relationships, but it had everything to do with how I saw myself and what I expected from my relationships, and the relationship that I had to my own vulnerability and my allowance to be weak and to need other people, to ask for help. And so when I started cultivating my relationship to my own vulnerability and my helplessness and insecurity and things like that, I would start attracting different kinds of friendships with people. Yeah, so that's another one. And you may also ask with each area of your life, what would my life look like if I was in a very loving relationship with myself? What would my day look like? What kind of practices would I have? Yeah. And also in my relationships, if you have relationships where you don't rate yourself high on self-love, what would it take? And why is it difficult with some people? That's also very interesting to look at. Why do some people seem to make it harder for us to be self-loving, and around other people it just seems pretty easy? What would it take for you to feel self-loving in all relationships in your life? And to be concrete around that as well. Maybe with some people you need to speak your voice more, to set boundaries, to allow yourself to be more authentic, things like that. So that's an investigation. So the third area is your work life, your job. So how self-loving are you around your work life? And what would it look like if it was to be an expression of love for yourself? And there are many areas of that. So it's how much do you work? How many hours? Do you have balance between your work life and your private life? Do you use your potential? Are you in your genius zone in your work life? Does it make you happy? Does it give you meaning? Do you feel fulfilled? Are you on purpose? Do you work too much or too little? Are you challenged in the right amount for you? You know, lots of things like that you can reflect on. So what would a really self-loving work life look like for you, and what would it take for you to create that for yourself? And so I also think that when we show ourselves love, like changing things around relationships or our work life or the connection that we have to ourselves, we show ourselves you are worthy of love. You are worthy of a beautiful, self-loving life, really. And also, I think we can start at any point on this self-love wheel. I call it the self-love wheel, and it will spread out to the other areas. So the next one is family, and you can divide that into your childhood family and the family that you are a part of or have created in your adult life. And again, ask how self-loving is it. I find that many people struggle with self-love in their childhood families, sometimes because we don't see each other clearly. We are stuck in old roles and old visions of each other, or actually perception of each other. And and it seems to be more difficult for many people to be really authentic in their childhood families. So, and much easier in the families that we have created in our adult life. And but it's also how much time do I spend with my family? Sometimes we spend all of our good energy on our work life and come home empty. And yeah, come home empty to the people that we love the most, and that's actually not self-loving. It's not really loving towards the people that we have in our lives, but it's not self-loving either. It's what are your values around family life? Do you honor them? What are your holy yeses around your family life? Do you honor your holy yeses? So when my children were small, I would work much less than I do now. I would pick them up early. We would take lots of days off because that felt very self-loving for me, to have lots of time with them and to honor my value around presence in my life. So that's also an aspect, I think, of family life. How present am I? Do I take care of myself so that I can take care of my family? Do I practice presence and self-love so that I may practice presence and loving presence with my family? We can only do that if we start with ourselves. Also, do I set my boundaries? Do I say yes and no? Am I in my empowerment in my family, or do I sometimes fall into victim patterns? So many things that you can look at around your family. So that was the four first. I will go through the last, but I'll just make a short pause. So the relationship to yourself, the relationships that you have in your life, how can these areas be a reflection of love for yourself? Your relationship to your work life and your relationship to your family, both your childhood family and your present family. Yeah, so I'll be back. Hello everyone, so this is part 2 of the self-wheel journey, and we ended off with family, and the next one is love life, so it's partnerships. And again, I would invite you to look at how self-loving are your relationships, your love life. Are you seen as you are? Are you yourself in your relationship? Can you express yourself freely? Do you receive the love that's there for you? Do you attract partners who see your bigness and beauty? Do you attract partners who really love you? So again, we look at relationships and partnerships as a reflection of the relationship we have to ourselves, of the level of self-love that we have. And it's also like in the relationship, there is a immense opportunity for growth. So every time our old childhood wounds come out, or are triggered by something in the relationship, how much love can you meet yourself with? How present can you be with your old patterns? It's not that if you really love yourself, there won't be old patterns or healings or wounds to take care of. I'm sure there will, but the way that we handle or meet ourselves when old patterns and fear emerge in the relationship is a big difference. Yeah, so I think, a lot of people are preoccupied with how their partner might change or could change, or it would be nice, or other relationships in our lives, it would be nice if they would change. And what I find really, really powerful is to pull that responsibility home and to look at with loving eyes, without judgment, how have I attracted these relationships? What is being mirrored within me? So if someone steps over our boundaries, for example, I would always communicate how it makes me feel, but I would also wonder whether I might have looked in a way or somehow invited to the boundary that's being crossed. I would always look at the learning, but I would also, and it's it's often something that happens when we are not really at home, when we're not present. Because I think very often if we feel that other people are really at home, really present, and there is this love within them, we won't feel like crossing their boundaries. And that goes for us as well. So, love life. There are so many aspects you could look at around love life. Is there a physical attraction, a spiritual alignment, a psychological alignment, lots of different things. Yeah. And so the next one is body, your relationship to your body. So how much self-love can you infuse your relationship with your body with? So that's like it's around eating. Do you eat what your body needs, too much or too little? Do you listen to your body? Do you get the right amount of exercise, too much or too little? Or the right kind of exercise according to where you are in your life. So sometimes when I work hard, I will do yin yoga or restorative yoga and things that will calm my nervous system instead of very hard training. At other times in life, I really enjoy hard training and strenuous yoga or other kinds of training. It's how do I think about my body? So few people, when you stand in front of the mirror naked, will think, I really love what I see. We are so used to having something that we would wish different or just want to fix, or I really love my body when I have lost 3 kilos or when I'm just a little more fit, or things like that. And a lot of people don't even look at themselves in the mirrors. They will sort of look away. So it's also that how much can you love your body as it is right now without fixing it. So that's also a thing. And what do you think about yourself when you look at yourself in the mirror? What do you think about your body? Also, what are your thoughts about your body, your strength, your well-being, your health? Do you think of yourself as someone who's healthy and strong, or not so much? So there's also a lot of different thought systems around our relationships to our body, and it's also our sexuality. Are you in contact with your sexuality? Also during the day, do you feel sexy? That's also part of being in contact with your body. And also, how grounded are you in your body? How connected are you to your body? How much do you actually live in it? How much do you listen to it? How much do you feel it? How much do you love it, really? It's also restoration. It's also part of it. Do you sleep enough? Do you sometimes just lie on the floor and do nothing because your body invites you to? Do you dress in a way that feels good for you, or do you just put something on because it doesn't matter? I think that's quite important too. Yeah, so lots of areas around the body. And again, you can rate yourself and maybe think about if there's something that could be more self-loving for you. What might that be, and what would be a first step? And yeah, the next one, number 7, is your home. And it might sound a little funny to have your home in a self-love wheel, but at least in the Nordic countries, we spend a lot of time in our homes. And I find that decorating my home and having the colors and textures and things that I bring home from travels and things like that in my home is an expression of love for myself. Also, I have my small altars. I have a lot of places for incense and candles with different kinds of smell. I would like to have a home that expresses love for who I am, so that my home becomes like a sacred temple that I live in, and that expresses comfort, and where I can be myself, where my senses can rest, where I am surrounded by beauty, where I can ground and really feel at home. So I also actually think that the way we live can be an expression of love. It doesn't, or we could just say it doesn't matter what I put myself into, but I think it's very self-loving to actually make it matter. And I know it's all different for all of us, but yeah, I do find it very self-loving. We had talks, some young people in our home playing around. You can probably hear that outside. All right, so the next one is communication, and that's a big one. And I find that a lot of people really don't know how to communicate in a self-loving way, because it's being in integrity. Can I express who I am? Can I express my emotions and needs? Can I, in a balanced, authentic way? Can I say yes and no? Can I express my boundaries before I get too angry or too indirect or anything like that? Can I express what's important for me? Can I really allow myself to be who I am in my communication with other people? So it's the words that we speak, but it's also the way that we communicate through our body language and things like that. And I do workshops just on this, and a lot of people will ask me, could you please give me an example of how to, for example, set a boundary in a loving, authentic, balanced way, because they will actually not have the wording. They wouldn't know what to say, really, how to say it, how to express it. And I think most of us are so used to, or have learned as small children, that you cannot just express who you are. You cannot just express your needs and feelings. It's selfish and it's wrong. And so we just haven't really learned the language of expressing ourselves, of being in integrity, of expressing our own truthfulness. And so it's, for many people, it's a language that we have to exercise and to learn and cultivate. And therefore many of us will express our feelings often too late. So we get too angry, or we get too indirect or manipulative. Yeah. So very seldom that we meet people who will just express in a loving, balanced, authentic way how they feel and who they are. In 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 the trust that I am lovable also when I speak my truth, and that it will be heard, and that it will be met by other people. I think that's a big one. Can I trust that? And can I trust myself to communicate in the world? I think a lot of people have let themselves down through life and don't really trust themselves. So that's a big one as well. And with some people, it's going to be easier to communicate in an authentic way, and with other people, more difficult. But we cannot place the responsibility and the power for our self-love and the self-love that we show ourselves when we communicate in a self-loving way. We cannot place that responsibility and empowerment outside of us. Okay, so the last one, number 9, I'll just show it to you again. I will write it as well in English. Is dreams and activities. So I also really find it an expression of self-love to take your dreams and the things that you dream of doing seriously. So, sometimes you will dream of singing in a choir, or dancing tango, or taking a class at university, or will dream at traveling through Australia in a camper, things like that. And we will live lives that I call when lives. When the children get older, when I have more money, when I have more time, when I feel more secure, things like that. And by doing that, living when lives, we communicate to ourselves that we are not important, that our dreams are not really that important, that it can wait. And I find that the way we live today will color the way that we live tomorrow. So often people will say, well, when I get older, we'll have more money, but then we'll be completely out of training, doing what we love, and listening to our dreams and finding ways to make our dreams come possible. So I think that's also a very beautiful way to show ourselves and our lives love, really, to show appreciation for the lives that we are so blessed to be living. So that was as short as I could just do it, introduction. Actually, you could work on each of these areas for days, and you can go work on one area and leave it for a while and work on another area, and you will find that working on one area will spread out to the other areas. So if you work on, for example, the relationship to yourself, you will find that the need to communicate in an authentic, self-loving way will grow within. The need to take care of your body will grow within. So everything, of course, comes from knowing how loved how loved we are, and I think it's very helpful to be awake to whether we live lives that are a reflection of that love or not, really. And to meet all the times that we don't do that with love and compassion, and find small ways that we can show ourselves how loved and beautiful and worthy we are. So that was just my small self self love wheel. I I hope it might be useful for some of you. Thank you for listening.